You'll have to forgive me for this one, and also for the part of the last one. I am actually feeling slightly under the weather as we talk about this. I have also had to take a COVID test literally yesterday to make sure I'm alright. Pretty sure I will be. It's probably just the common flu. COVID's not as serious in Australia as it is across the rest of the world. But anyway, that's enough of that tangent. Now, the second part here is going to cover the Astra Militarum Imperial Guard Warlord traits. So currently in our 8th edition book, the current meta that we typically see is either choosing Grand Strategist for the reroll of the single dice reroll, so basically you get a free CP reroll, and then you get to try and get some CP points back, so refunded, or it's Old Grudges, so you just select the biggest, meanest target out there, and then you can shoot at it with rerolls, or you just don't take a Warlord trait at all, and you just take that second tank ace to give your Manticore full payload. So you have 2 Manticores with full payload. So that's basically what the current meta is. What I'm trying to do is to make all Warlord traits a bit more viable, and also re-add some of the traits that we've lost from the removal of specialist attachments from match play and tournaments, and basically from all the 9th edition codexes we're seeing currently. So the biggest changes I've highlighted would be Grand Strategist. So whilst your Warlord is alive, you can get that free single reroll. In addition, I've changed it to, if your army is battleforged, roll a d3 before the battle begins, and you gain that number of additional command points equal to the result. So effectively, you'll always be guaranteed to get at least 1 extra CP, up to 3 extra CP, depending on how lucky you are. So instead of having to roll for every single stratagem that's been used, and then, well, not every single, but what's specified in the ability itself, and that being a complete gamble, at least you get a reliable source of CP that you can depend on. So you'll be like, okay, at least I know I'm getting 1. The next thing is Old Grudges. Not changing anything there. That one's perfectly fine on itself. It just gives you a nice solid damage boost to a single unit, which will probably be the enemy's most powerful unit. So whatever's targeting that doesn't need to change. Implaceable Determination. So I've changed that to friendly Astra Militarum infantry, cavalry, and sentinel units within 6 inch of this Warlord may add 1 to charge rolls. In addition, each time a unit within 6 inch of this Warlord is selected to make a normal move, advance, or fall back, you can add 1 inch to that unit's move characteristic until the end of the phase. So a little bit more reliable, just gives a slight bonus to movement for anything that's effectively around the Warlord. I think it's a little bit nice to include Sentinels in that. Sentinels, I believe, should be treated more like heavy infantry rather than actual vehicles, simply because of their walker nature. They're not dreadnoughts, they're not Imperial Knights, they're basically just mechanized heavy infantry, so essentially walking autocannons or heavy scouts, depending on the type of variant you see. The next one I've done is for Draconian Disciplinarian. I'm hoping I pronounced that right. You can reroll failed morale tests for friendly Astra Militarum units within 6 inch of the Warlord. So that part hasn't really changed at all. In addition, roll 1d6 when an Astra Militarum model flees whilst its unit is within 6 of the Warlord. On a 4+, that model does not flee. So basically, say if you have things like a mass conscript blob near your Warlord, they're gonna lose quite a lot of models to fleeing, simply because the amount of models that are in that unit if you fail that morale test. So that should just make sure that you lose slightly less models when they run away. Bellowed Voice, I've actually combined that with Master of Command currently as is. So essentially it's changed to add 3 inch to the range of any abilities on your Warlord's datasheet. In addition, your Warlord gains the Voice of Command ability. If your Warlord already has the Voice of Command ability, they may instead issue 1 order per turn. So if your Warlord is a Commissar, it can issue any order to any regiment, unit, or cavalry unit, irrespective of what regiment it is from. So basically just combining those two just to make Bellowing Voice a little bit more of an interesting choice. So you get that 1 extra order, and you get that 3-inch order range, additional order range. Then I've changed Master of Command itself completely. So I've changed it to, after both players have deployed their armies, select up to 3 regiment infantry, cavalry, or scout sentinel units from your army and redeploy them. If the mission uses the strategic reserves rule, any of those units can be placed in strategic reserves without having to spend any additional CP, regardless of how many units are already in strategic reserves. If both players have have abilities that redeploy units, roll off, the winner chooses who redeploys their units first. So basically, just saves you some CP. Instead of having to spend it on strategic reserves. So if you want to put some of your, say, special weapon squads, Death Riders, or Scout Sentinels into reserves, you don't have to pay for it. Well, Death Riders get for free now anyway, because of their flanking maneuvers. But hey, you can put them on the board and then later on be like, okay, I might actually put these in strategic reserves. So that's just something nice there, or you redeploy them behind cover if you lose the roll-off of going first. So just something interesting to think about. Mechanized Commander, so that was previously what's it called? Sorry, I've just lost my train of thought here. That was a Specialist Detachment Warlord trait. So basically, I've just removed that completely out of this hypothetical 9th edition codex. It's now taken as a vehicle upgrade. So essentially anything that allowed a officer to issue orders from within the Chimera previously. So there is a stratagem that does it, and I believe a Militarum Tempestus, so your Scions / Stormtroopers, they had a relic that allowed to do it as well. They've all been removed, and I've just now made that a vehicle upgrade and given things like the Turox Prime access to vehicle upgrades. So I think it's 5-10 points off the top of my head. We'll get to that later in the series. But yeah, basically, if your officer goes into a vehicle that has that upgrade, they can issue orders from outside it. It's just simple, just small point tax, much simpler, much better, I believe. Then we have Fiery Denouncer. So again, this is another Specialist Detachment one I'm bringing back. So this one is a melee buff. So reroll hit rolls of 1 for your Warlord and friendly Astra Militarum, infantry, cavalry, and sentinel units within 6-inch of your Warlord in the fight phase. So again, trying to make, say for example you're playing as Catechins, you get that +1 to your strength. You're going to get those extra attacks from priests, maybe even Strachan. If you have a Warlord next to him, so say another company commander, you could then also give them reroll 1s to hit in the fight phase. So you get those extra attacks, plus you get some more reliable hits in there. Unflinching Resolve. So that was also a Specialist Detachment Warlord trait. So I've changed that to whenever an Astra Militarum vehicle unit within 6-inch of the Warlord would lose a wound, roll a d6. On a 6, that wound is not lost. So essentially it gives them a 6+ feel no pain. Nothing too drastic. But it could save you 2 or 3 wounds if you're incredibly lucky, more than that over the course of the game. So I might just keep a Lehman Russ or something alive, just maybe an extra turn if you're lucky. Then we go on to Lord of Ordnance. So again, going through all those Specialist Detachment Warlord traits. So I've basically almost kept that one the same. So each time you roll a wound roll of 6+ for an attack made by a friendly artillery. So there's that weapon the weapon definition there, or unit definition, sorry. So that covers both carriage and self-propelled artillery. I've also added all Hydra unit. While, say, within 6-inch of your Warlord in the shooting phase, the armor penetration characteristic of that weapon is improved by 1. So not the biggest buff, but definitely something noticeable over the course of the game if you have a decent amount of units within that Warlord's aura. So say, for example, you had maybe 3 Hydras or 3 Wyverns within that, you'd probably notice that quite a lot. Next one's Grab Shoot Commando. So this was your Militarum Tempestus Drop Force one. So I've essentially, again, left this one basically the same. So add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by friendly Astra Militarum infantry units that disembarked from a friendly Valkyrie or Vendetta this turn while, say, within 6-inch of your Warlord. So essentially I've moved that away from being purely Militarum Tempestus to something that can affect all Astra Militarum infantry units. So why did I do that? Because to try and represent things like your drop regiments, so something like Elysian, what are they called? The Harkonnen Warhawks. I probably butchered that name going from memory. That was back in 3.5 edition. I remember those guys being in the Codex. Then lastly is Vicious Taskmaster. So this is one I've just quickly made up. So this one isn't hugely amazing, but it can definitely help. So I've made it to friendly Astra Militarum infantry units that are performing an action within 6 inches of this Warlord can make range attacks without that action failing. So basically what you could do if you don't have any good choices for Warlord traits and you said played maybe highly infantry focused list, you could stick like a platoon commander or a company commander in the backfield, give him that, and then just get your Astra Militarum infantry units just to start performing actions, slowly move them up the board, keep them performing actions, and keep them fighting while they do those actions. So just something small, doesn't do too much, but could help. Next is the regimental specific Warlord traits. So superior tactical training, so the Cadian one. Haven't really changed too much there. All I've really done is now added the cavalry definition into it. Cavalry keyword into it, just so, because we're bringing into the Codex some more cavalry units, so that means they can order them now as well. Lead from the front, which is the Catachan one, no changes. Tenacious Van Halen, slight change just to make it a little bit more viable. So I've changed it to a 5+ Feel No Pain for both vehicles and infantry or cavalry. So a little bit better than just taking, say, the other Warlord trait for the vehicles, the Unflinching Resolve, which is a 6+ to all vehicles around it. So this one's actually better on a single vehicle at least. And then in addition, if your Warlord is an infantry or cavalry model and has lost any wounds, at the start of your turn, it can regain 1 lost wound. So that might not come into effect very often, but it's just something else just to think about. It's like, oh, hey, I can send this cavalry officer with his power sword into combat, and he can pump out a bit of damage, take a little bit of damage, and he'll regain some of that next turn. So hopefully make them a little bit more viable, that one there. On a duelist, again, trying to make that one a bit more viable as well. So I've changed it to reroll failed hit, wound, and invulnerable saves in the fight phase made by your Warlord. So why I say invulnerable saves, maybe I could have done armor saves as well, or just armor saves, but basically, if he's an honoured duelist, he could be good at parrying, represses, I probably pronounced that word wrong as well. So basically, he's just good at protecting himself or dodging those kind of melee attacks. So, as well as doing better in combat, he's also better at protecting himself in combat. Ex-gang leader, so the Armageddon one, add 1 to this Warlord's wound and attack characteristics. In addition, add 1 to any wound rolls made by your Warlord in the fight phase. So try and make him a little bit more survivable. So most characters will go from 4 to 5 wounds, and then they would also get that extra attack for things like if they have a power weapon or power fist, that'd be nice. And then +1 to wound rolls. So hopefully most of the time you'll be wounding your standard mechs, so your T4 Marines on a 3+, and you'll be wounding anything on a T5 and a 4+. So that'd be nice. Swift Attacker, Talan, I haven't changed too much there as well. I've just made that so they can both shoot or charge, even in the turn that they fell back. So just make it a little bit more viable. It just seemed a little bit silly that they could fall back and charge, but not shoot. It just seems a bit strange they can't do that. Iron Discipline, so this one, I've tried to make it a little different than the general one itself. So this one is roll a dice for each model that flees any friendly Mordian units within 6 inches of your Warlord in the morale phase. On a 4+, that model does not flee, so pretty standard there. In addition, your Warlord gains the Aura of Discipline ability. So basically, you turn your company commander, platoon commander, etc., into kind of like an improvised commissar. So they stop things from fleeing, and they also give everything slightly greater leadership. Then there's Faithful Servant of the Throne. So that's your Militarum Tempestus general one. So I've changed that to your Warlord can attempt to deny 1 psychic power in the enemy's psychic phase in the same manner as a Psyker. So that's basically the same. In addition, add 1 to invulnerable saving throws made by your Warlord. So at the moment, that doesn't really make sense because Tempestus Primes don't have a invo save, but as we'll see later, I have actually given them a refractor field, so this would have an effect. It brings it to a 4+. So basically think of it as something like, the Sisters of Battle get their 6+. Think of it as they get like their own little 6+ in addition to their 5+, so it stacks up to a 4+, something like that. So they're so faithful that they get an extra pip to their invulnerable save. Keys to the Armory, Lamb, Dan, Lions, no change there. It's already pretty strong. Uncompromising Prosecution. I think it's Fetoid Eagles. Probably pronouncing that wrong. But when resolving an attack made with a hotshot weapon by a friendly Thetoid Eagles model within 6 inches of this Warlord on an unmodified wound roll of a 6. That weapon has an armor penetration characteristic of -4 for that attack. So basically now that covers all kinds of weapons like sniper rifles. So again, we've turned that into a long las with a -2 to represent being a hotshot weapon. And then all things like your hotshot las pistols, hotshot las guns, and your hotshot volley gun. So that just basically just adds the sniper rifle into it. And you'll see later that we've actually allowed scions to take long lasers as special weapons. Precision targeting for the Iotan Dragons, no change there. I think that one's okay, not amazing. Skilled tracker for the Sphisian, Scion, I'm saying all this terribly, I know. Jackals, no change there. Master Vox, so this one has got just a slight change there. So basically, he counts as just having a Vox caster at all times, and he just gets 1 additional order. So nothing huge, but because vehicles are now just going to have a small upgrade cost just to give them that benefit, he just basically just gets a Vox automatically, and because that's not really worth it, we just give him an extra order. Sanctity of Spirit, so the Itan Gorgons. When a psychic test is taken for an enemy psycho within 24 inch of this Warlord, that model suffers perils of the warp on a roll of any double. I've also added, whilst your Warlord is within 6 inch of any Chaos units, subtract 1 from the leadership characteristics of those enemy units. So Sanctity of Spirit, basically, just the psychic test one is okay, but we've just added something to make it a little bit more thematically and just something that you could take with just a little slight buff to it that you won't notice at all times. So that's it for Warlord traits. Again, sorry for any pronunciation or any other grammatical issues I might have said or stumbling. This is all completely new to me. I just thought I'd just share my thoughts openly, see what everyone thinks. Thanks very much.